So let's jump in and get started today, guys. And we're going to jump into our financial university course. This is something, again, as I talked about, we are very, very passionate about, is bringing commercial solutions into the healthcare environment. Because look, the person that presents money inside your practice, that is not a clinical position. It's just not. And if you think about it from a perspective of would that person be able to present money inside a commercial organization, would they be hired? Most of the time, the answer is no, and it's not a criticism, and that's why we created this, because your treatment coordinator needs to be transformed into a financial expert and have the same abilities to be able to speak the consumer language to more than double your operating cash flow. We're going to get into a lot today, and let's discuss a few of those bullet points that we're going to talk about. The first one is consumer buying behavior, something that I'm probably more passionate about than anything else we do is just consumers in general, but the facts are what you're going to learn is the way consumers buy is the complete opposite of how money is presented inside a healthcare environment. And some of the things that we're going to talk about may surprise you, but I think you'll really like that portion. The other one is understanding cash flow. It's a very misunderstood term. It's very often confused with recurring revenue, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into what is the number one way, the number one thing you have at your disposal to close consumers, and that is the payment calculator that is vastly underutilized at the practice level. The other one are very specific ways to increase profit based on how money is being presented to consumers inside your practice. The other one is a little bit of an understanding of credit increase, the difference between soft and hard pulls and the in-betweens, and what happens if one of your patients say, is this going to affect my credit? How does your treatment coordinator overcome that question? What do they say? And then at the end, we're going to put it all together. And what you're going to see today is something that literally we could talk about for webinars for the next year. And we're going to try to keep it as high level as we possibly can because obviously we're not going to cover it all. But I want to give you as much information that you can take back to your practice to help you as possible. The first one is talking about consumer behavior. The facts are your patients are your customers, and they need to dictate what the marketplace is. You don't dictate to them what you think is right from a payment option standpoint inside your practice. You are a consumer-driven business, and you have to go by statistics. You don't want to be the CEO that believes and feels something and therefore implements it. You want to be the CEO that bases your decisions off of statistical data, and then you implement that statistical data and protocols to succeed based off of that information. And you have to understand what the consumer wants. And that's what we're really going to get into today. And we're going to first talk about consumer buying behavior. What you see there is a picture of what I call, when I keynote speak, my mom and dad. Obviously, that's not the picture of them, but I use them as an example to really explain the differences between the two types of consumers out there. It causes problems inside households. My parents used to fight a lot. You guys are going to see what I'm talking about in just a minute. But the person on the left there, supposed to represent my father, is a paid in full buyer. He hates banks, doesn't like the word interest, thinks if you present anything monthly payment-wise, you're a scammer. The list goes on and on. The person on my right, representing my mother, is the complete opposite. She represents the vast majority of the country, and we're going to get into a few more specifics here, and she makes all of her buying decisions via low monthly payments. And she is the type that if she hears the total price first, you will lose her. And my dad's the type that if he hears the total price last, you will lose him. But the facts are 85 to 90% of consumers are my mom. They make up the vast majority of buyers in this country. They buy with interest. They many times don't even care how high the interest is. They just want something that's a low monthly payment that fits their budget. And as long as they value what it is they're buying, and if you remember in past webinars, we talked about the 3 steps that a brain goes through, yours, mine, anybody, when making a decision. Remember, they've got to understand it and value it. So if this consumer values something at a high enough level, they will buy it even if it is 1.6 million % interest. That is how most consumers make buying decisions. If you think about it in life, your car, your furniture, your TV, your house, the list goes on and on. That is how consumers buy. Right or wrong, that is how they buy. Which is why 85 to 90% of consumers, and I'm going to get to what we're selling here on the screen in just a second, but most consumers need to see treatment presented this way. this is how they have to see it. $137 a month, no down payment, and first payment not due until next month. Now, the beauty of that is when you outsource it to a third-party financing company, this is how you can present it. Now, what I'm presenting to the patient here is actually a $5,500 Invisalign case. But I think we can all agree that it's much more attractive presenting $5,500 in the format that those 3 bullet points are in. However, it's only more attractive if you're that type of buyer. The facts are only 10 to 15% of people make their purchasing decisions on paid in full. How much can I save now if I write a check and pay this off immediately? And it's kind of, we joke about it in the company because Eric Field, who did a great introduction today, Eric is the type buyer that I'm talking about right here. Eric represents 10 to 15% of America. It's the Dave Ramsey theory, where for any of you who follow Dave Ramsey, he calls his followers weird because they're the minority. And they're probably right how they make their buying decisions, but the facts are they're in the minority. And I, however, represent the 85 to 90%. Even if I can afford something and pay it in full, I still decide to hoard the cash, try to keep as much in the bank as possible, and I make those monthly payments. But the facts are, because we're different, money under no circumstances can be presented the same way to both types of consumers. It has to be customized to the type of consumer based on how they buy in life. Now, if you're a paid in full buyer, this is how you have to present money to that type of consumer. And you can see it's the complete opposite of what you saw before. If you noticed, the first thing you're seeing here is the total price. Totally different than before, right? When you saw the low monthly payment and only the total price at the end. And many times you don't even have to show them the total price. That's the beauty of it. And we're going to get into more of that. But $5,500 Invisalign case is what they need to see first, followed by, and obviously the 10% I have on the screen is just an example. We're not saying do 10%. Whatever your paid in full discount is, keep that. But this is how you would present that. It's a $5,500 Invisalign case with a 10% paid in full discount, representing a total of $550 off. So you only pay $49.50 today. And you can see that's a completely different philosophy, but it's based on how this consumer makes their buying decisions in life. You've got to customize it. Now, the problem becomes, and again, this is what the screen that you see right now is something that could be a 3-hour presentation in itself, because I want you guys to ask yourselves, what type of buyer are you? Now that you've seen those screens, what type of buyer are you? And after you answer that question, you need to throw it out the window because it doesn't matter. What happens a lot in practices, most doctors from studies we've done are paid in full buyers, which means many times the payment options that they have at their practice, at their business, are biased because they're based off of what they think is the best payment option. And you have to completely eliminate what you believe is the best payment option because it does not matter. The consumer tells you what the best payment option is. Because again, most consumers think that the lowest monthly payment with a higher interest is the best payment option. We're going to get into more reasons why. The statistics prove it. That's not opinion. The other part of the bias that happens in practices all the time is, what if the person presenting money at your practice is a paid in full buyer themselves? How is that person going to sit there and convince the consumer, the patient in front of them, that the best option for them is $99 a month with 16% interest? Think about that for a second. That is a problem. If the person presenting money doesn't believe in that type of payment in their own lives, it drastically has an effect on how they present money to people because they present it in a biased way. And it's a serious, serious problem that you need to ensure does not happen at your practice. Now, some payment plans to think about inside your office. Trusted partners. And those are also terms that you need to use. You never need to speak third-party financing or the word bank to consumers. Just a few things that you should have in your practice to ensure that no one ever leaves because of money. Trusted partners. You should be partnered with multiple of them. There's reasons why we're going to get into today. Paid in full discounts, in-house payment options, installment plans, and really the difference between that and in-house. We look at in-house as somebody paying you on a monthly basis over the course of time, and maybe an installment plan is you say, hey, look, we're going to break this treatment up into 4 separate payments. And then a VIP layaway plan, which is a really neat plan that our clients love because basically it's like buying a couch, but you don't get the couch until you've paid it off. So basically, whatever treatment it may be, maybe it's Invisalign, and you do Invisalign, maybe you do a layaway plan where they pay whatever they can a month until they cover your lab bill, and then you initiate treatment. Or maybe they do that until they've paid off $3,000 and you initiate treatment. But it's a beautiful thing because you don't start treatment until you don't give them the couch until they've paid off a certain amount. And as you have all those payment options in place in your practice, and they're presented the right way and in the right order, you will double and more than double your operational cash flow, which we're now going to jump into.